Hello, folks. Doing a bit of a status here. So what I found out happened, and I know this is like 2 weeks after. Yes, hothead was leaking, but it was leaking from right above the plate. So it wasn't coming from the throat, and it wasn't coming from here, which I was kind of expecting. So this is probably end of its life, and I suspect that since this is the second time, actually it's more than the second time for this style uh, that I found leaks. This is probably, you know, you folks might want to just stay away from that. And it looks slightly, maybe it's not slightly bent. Okay. Anyway, what the problem was actually the heater went out. I thought it was a thermistor. I measured it. I found out that the one of my probes, the wire broke. So just like, this is odd. I'm not getting any reading whatsoever. And then I test continuity, and of course that doesn't work. And I'm like, uh-oh. And then of course wire comes right off. So I had to buy new probes because the ones I had were molded. So no repairing those. They're broke. I bought a nice set. Didn't break the bank, but still something that I could repair in a meaningful way and hopefully last. Well, I had those for maybe 10 years or so, so maybe longer. Who knows? Anywho, it wasn't the thermistor, it was the heater. And then I ended up breaking thermistor anyway. So I needed to order a new thermistor. Yay! And it's coming down to I am gonna have to use this to print. Well, I have to cat up a cowl to print a cowl to support good old Chunky. So that's what's next on the bench. And I need to cat up a new one because this cowl won't work with good old Chunky because it is chunky. It fits in as such. Wires come up through the sides. But as you can tell, well, as you will tell in a moment, always happens live, doesn't it? Let's do it like this is supposed to be done. And hopefully this benefits some LH users out there because it's the typical cowl. This is not the UHF long cowl, more the standard one. Oh, I can't say that. Lemure Hayes actually uses UHF Dragon, so he would use a larger one. But so that would fit in as such. You put in your 3mm spacer and press it right in. It actually looks a little more than 3mm. But holding it as such, the fans would definitely interfere. Well, it would interfere with the fans. So I need to print out the longer one. So that will probably be what I'm after. From there, I will then print out the remaining parts for the X gantry because I didn't get around to that. And then print out another cowl for the LH to mount on MGN 12. And hopefully that will be that. So, while I have this in pieces, I'm sure some people out there have questions because I sure did when I was going, well, what's the difference between these two? So let's do some just real quick and dirty. All right, we're at 41.5. or so. Let's take a, yeah, 41.5. That is 45 point, 45.5. All right, so 4 mil difference there. Of course, you already saw how much breadth it took. Of course, there's a noticeable difference in size there. Or 21 grams there, pretty light. You know, if you wanted to know, say with MZE, and that is the Undertaker, 31. All right. And now, well, come back here. And let's just lay it down. And I'll just hold up these cords because we're at, whoa, let's get out of the camera here. 60, come on. 66-ish. 67. Don't remember what the last ones were, so I can't do the mental math. But just for your own edification, where that is. Bolt hole patterns, of course, are the same for both. You saw me fit it into the cowl, so that's the same. No problem there. And now I've been off doing other things, actually. Now I have to undo this mess. Well, actually, that's pretty much undone. But some lessons learned here, because this is the original one I printed out. This is the spacer that goes in between. Yeah, it pulled right through. Where's the old cowl? Did I already toss it? I might have already tossed it. That was pulled in from the bottom. So that was PET G all the way through. You can tell there's let's see if we can, there's definitely a lot of deformation, but I mean, this is almost a year's worth on PET G. So, you know, scrunch wise, because I mean, this is where the most of it, that's done fairly well, except where, of course, absolute direct pressure. This is handled fairly well. I've noticed that here it got a little soft. I don't know if that's because of the stepper just heating up, because it gets fairly warm. Not to the point where I can't touch it, so probably not that hot. But I have been using an enclosure now. Again, 40C-ish. But you can tell it's slightly deformed here. This will be the swan song for using the breakout board. When I switch to using the Dragon, I will be doing direct line to the main board. So this whole mechanism will disappear, and I will be wiring direct. So, yeah, my fan fell off. That's what I need to solder on. Other than that, just some work ahead of me. What I have been doing is just taking a break from 3D printing a bit. Well, obviously, I can't print a thing. And looking into more in my home lab. AI's, of course, the big keyword these days. We're using it at work a lot. So I really got to step up and self-learn a bit more. That's how I learn new tech. So I built out my own little Llama server here at home, or I just added it onto my Cades. Different subject, not 3D printing, but one of my hopes is maybe, since I'm playing around with Abitco's JustPrint, which is the AI for Orca. If you haven't seen that, take a look. Pretty neat. Not For a beginner, for someone getting into 3D printing, I think it's a great start. There are already videos out there that dived into it from bigger names than me, so I don't need to rehash anything. I was I was part of the open beta, and I gave feedback. So if you look at their GitHub, you'll see my name on it. I think it's neat for someone new to 3D printing. I think it's going to lead them in the right direction for at least getting successful prints. I think it's overly cautious in its suggestions, but that's okay. We're not printing speed benchies, we're printing actual objects, hopefully. So that's where I'm at. I'm hoping to meld in, maybe try my hand at training a model at 3D printing. I don't know. I have other things on my mind as well for training LLMs. So that's where I'm at. Hopefully next video we'll be back to printing. So thanks for hanging in there. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, folks.